الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له الملك الحق المبين وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله سيد ولد آدم أجمعين صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين على مر الأيام والليالي والشهور والسنين أما بعد. As we continue in the explanation of this tremendous treatise by the great Imam Taqiyuddin Ahmad ibn Abdul Halim ibn Abdul Salam ibn Taymiyyah al-Harrani al-Dimashqi, the one who died 728 after the migration of our Prophet ﷺ. As we continue on this treatise, you'll find that the great Imam, as we continue mentioning the explanation, but we'll read what he says in his book, because we have emphasized to everyone to pay close attention to what Shaykh al-Islam mentions in his actual text of this book. As we were mentioning after the Muqaddimah, as we finished the introductions, it mentions, as we concluded the explanation of it. But no problem, we'll just read a little bit of it so we can be upon one page. And then we'll actually start today in the book itself. The Shaykh al-Islam, he says, rahimahullah, if everyone looks, he says, then ثم هؤلاء المتكلمون المخالفون السلف إذا حقق عليهم الأمر لم يوجد عندهم من حقيقة العلم. To the end of what he mentioned, what he said, فضلا عن سائر الأمم الذين لا كتاب لهم وأحاطوا من حقائق المعارف وبواطن الحقائق بما لو جمعت حكمة غيرهم إليها لاستحيا من يطلب المقابلة. If everyone looks in their books, you'll notice that he says, praising the Salaf. Praising the Salaf and laying down what is the foundation of the religion and what we rely upon in regards to the most essential and vital of all matters, which is our belief, meaning the foundation of the religion in connection with Iman, in connection with the fundamentals of Iman, of faith, and the fundamentals as pertaining to what we believe in regards to our Lord. That the masdar, where we derive our knowledge, all returns back to Kitab and Sunnah, and the madhab al-Salaf, the understanding of the companions, and their ijma', their consensus. And when we say ijma', we mean the consensus of the companions of the Message of Allah. That is what we rely upon in our religion, in which everything is derived from that source. Everything returns back to it. As we know, our religion is not based upon emotions and feelings and dhawq, or what we feel or what we deem to be good in our opinions and in our minds and our rationalities. Rather, everything is based upon what Allah and His Messenger has sent down, and we refer our affairs back to that source. And this is what the great Imam is mentioning, as he said in this paragraph. If we continue, when he mentions it, says, he said, verily I gave this introduction لأن من استقرت هذه المقدمة عنده علم طريق الهدى. He said, verily I put forth this introduction, that if this introduction becomes settled with the person, he will know the path of proper guidance. Where is it from? Where is it? In regards to this affair, al-bab, in regards to this chapter or this affair. What is he speaking about? He's speaking about creed, foundation, faith, all the fundamentals, everything connected with it. He said he will know the proper road of guidance. Where is it? Especially in this matter. And other than that, from the other affairs of our religion. Meaning the affairs of fiqh, same thing. The affairs of fiqh also returns back to the source which we just mentioned, the Book of Allah and the Sunnah, upon the methodology of the companions. He said that is the source in all of our affairs in the religion, not just the fundamentals, but also the branches. He says, وَعَلِمَ أَنَّ الضَّلَالَ وَالتَّهَوُّكِ إِنَّمَا اسْتَوْلَى عَلَى كَثِيرٍ مِنَ الْمُتَأَخِّرِينَ بِنَبْذِهِمْ كِتَابَ اللَّهِ وَرَاءَ ظُهُورِهِمْ. He said he will also have knowledge that misguidance and improper placement, or so-called bravery that is misplaced, as we mentioned the meaning of tahawwuk. He said you will find that misguidance and this misplaced bravery, so-called, verily it conquered or had taken over a lot of those who came later on in the later generations. He said why? Because of them taking the book of Allah and throwing it behind their backs, and them turning away from what Allah sent the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam of clarification and proper guidance. And those, meaning they abandoned looking for the proper way, meaning the proper methodology and the proper understanding from those who preceded us from the companions and those who followed them from the tabi'een. So you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam is laying down the source again. He's saying Kitab, Sunnah, and that the reason why people became misguided because of their abandonment of the path of those who preceded us, meaning the Sahaba, and those who followed them with perfection. And he said, وَالْتِمَاسِهِمْ عِلْمُ مَعْرِفَةِ اللَّهِ مِمَّنْ لَمْ يَعْرِفِ اللَّهِ بِإِقْرَارِهِ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ. He said, you will also find, also for the reason of their misguidance, because they abandoned seeking knowledge, the proper knowledge, starting with knowing knowledge about their Lord, who's Allah. He said, from those who did not know Allah. He said, بِإِقْرَارِهِ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ. He said, due to the fact that you'll find that those scholars that we spoke about in the previous chapters, all had admitted for themselves how they became lost. Those theologians who busied themselves with abandoning everything we just mentioned from the Book of Allah, the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and following the path of the companions, what they admitted about themselves, that they became in a state of loneliness and in a state of misguidance and in a state of destruction. And to the point where we talked about that it said, and if Allah does not bestow His mercy upon me by removing me from the state that I'm in of loneliness, then woe to me. He said, you find that they themselves, who are considered the so-called revered theologians from their people, this is what they said. Why? Because they abandoned these sources that we just said, the Book of Allah, the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and they sought knowledge in other than that. And they especially subjected themselves to the most dangerous of all matters, which is to be ignorant about their Lord. And when a person is ignorant concerning their Lord, then for the most, you will know that all their other affairs in their affairs in their life will be disrupted. He said, for them saying, وَلِشَهَادَةِ الْأُمَّةِ عَلَى ذَلِكَ وَبِدَلَالَاتٍ كَثِيرَةٍ وَلَيْسَ غَرْضِي وَاحِدًا مُعَيَّنًا وَإِنَّمَا أَصِفُ نَوْعَ هَؤُلَاء وَنَوْعَ هَؤُلَاء. I don't think it's in your books, if I'm not mistaken. It's not in there? طيب. So you'll find at the end, you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam, after he started that whole muqaddimah which you have in your laps, so that's basically what is translated. What is translated is the introduction. But Shaykh al-Islam now has said, if you ponder on this introduction, understand it clearly and understand it firmly, and it's been settled in your heart of the source of guidance and the proper guidance that we have, that those sources that we refer back to in all of our affairs, and the most essential of all of them, which is creed and the belief and the knowledge about our Lord, goes back to those sources, then he said you will come to this conclusion of what we just established. So for you'll find that in the end of the book, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if this paragraph is there. I don't think it is.
This paragraph you just read?
Mm-hmm. It is? Then what does it say? Read it for me. Read it for me, Khalil.
It says, hence only began with this introduction because the one who...
What page is it on?
61.
What you said was in there.
You said it's not in there?
It's not, or it is?
It is, just worded a little different, but everything you were saying
Okay.
is still in there.
This says 61? Tafadal.
hence only began with this introduction because the one who has it firmly established will know where true guidance lies in this subject other than it, just as one will know that misguidance and confusion have only prevailed over many of the latecomers due to them tossing the book of Allah behind their backs.
So it's in there. Alhamdulillah. I thought you said it wasn't in there. Tafadal.
And turning away from the clear evidence and guidance that Allah sent Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with. Also, them leaving off searching for the path of the early predecessors in the Tabi'een and instead seeking knowledge of Allah from those who did not know Him based upon their own acknowledgement, the testimony of the Ummah, and countless other proofs. Further, my objective is not to discuss one person in particular. However, I will give descriptions of each accordingly.
G. Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah is saying, after this introduction that I've laid down, this strong introduction, which is considered a shuwal ala or shuwal min nar ala al-mu'attila, which is considered a coal or brand of hot fire against the people who negated the attributes of Allah. He said, verily I put forth this introduction, and he stopped here of course, when you find that he utilized this as a basis to make the head of his discussion, in which everything now will be referred back to throughout this book. And like we said, these are the ways in which Ahlul Sunnah equip themselves in regards to battling and fighting off falsehood is based upon what he laid down as foundation. For verily you will find that a lot of people, when they come with different types of ambiguities, the first thing you say, give me a dalil from the book of Allah, in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, meaning authentic Sunnah. And what is the understanding of the companions in regards to that? So you'll find that the foundation of our religion, all of it, revolves around those affairs. That's the reason why this muqaddimah that he laid down, or this introduction, is considered very strong. And it's considered, if you want to say, as Shaykh al-Islam said, shuwalva min al-nar. It's considered like a hot coal, meaning a missile, if you want to say, for lack of better words, against the people falsehood. He said, for verily this muqaddimah, when it has become established, of course, with one, he will know the tariq al-huda, he will know the path of proper guidance, where it is, in regards to the affairs connected with creed and belief, which is the rectification, the foundation of every human being. The rectification of every human being starts with their belief in creed, meaning what they believe in regards to their Lord. That's the source of prominence and rectification for every human being. And opposite of that is the source of corruption, and the source of every atrocity in this world starts with the corruption of belief in one's heart. For that's where thought process emanates. It all starts with the heart and its rectification, or it starts with the heart and its corruption. And that, based upon that, human beings and societies either are successful or they will fall into destruction. So that's the reason why he's mentioned and said, in regards to what one will now discover and find, what is tariq al-huda, where it is in regards to this matter, what we're discussing now. And like we said, he's discussing what again? The affairs connected with Allah, meaning His names and attributes, and other than that, with affairs that are connected with creed. So he said, وَعَلِمَ أَنَّ الضَّلَالَ وَالتَّهَوُّكِ. You will know that in misguidance, in this so-called misplaced bravery, verily it has conquered and dominated over a lot of those who came later. Why? Because they removed the book of Allah and they threw it behind their backs. Because, like we said, anyone who seeks guidance in other than the book of Allah, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will subject them to destruction. Whoever seeks guidance other than a prophetic, authentic sunnah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will subject them to destruction and failure. So, the one who does seek it, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will what? He will give them prominence, success, and He will make them successors in the earth. For verily this is something what he's mentioning here, but إِعْرَاضِهِمْ عَمَّا بَعَثَ اللَّهُ بِهِ مُحَمَّدًا مِنَ الْبَيِّنَاتِ وَالْهُدَى. By the people turning away from what Allah has sent Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam with, of clear evidences and proofs and proper guidance. Clear evidences and proofs and proper guidance is the knowledge. As for the ahadith, just as you know, تدرجوا إلى إلغائها ثم وصلوا إلى القرآن. Just as we'll speak about, inshallah, from all those groups that we spoke about that was affected by Greek philosophy and logic and the likes of that, you'll find that they gradually went to the Sunnah first, and then they what? Canceled it out, removed it, has no value. Then you'll find Shaitan played with them gradually until they arrived to what? The Quran. Then the Quran, same thing. You'll find that they had taken the Quran, threw it behind their back until it didn't really have any value to it. For example, starting with the Sunnah, the Message of Allah, you'll find that they came with these terms such as that the narrations of the Sunnah breaks down into two categories. They say ahad wa mutawatir. That's what we mentioned last class. For verily these terminologies were all new. They were not something that none of the Sahaba said. None of the Sahaba mentioned that the authentic Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu in regards to how we accept it or reject it, that it breaks down into two categories. One category entitled ahad, and the second category entitled mutawatir. That is something that was now brought by those who are affected by philosophy, and it was introduced into the Kitab and Sunnah in order to instill doubt in the hearts of the Muslims concerning their belief. For you'll find that they say, in light with the great Imam Muhammad Aman al-Jami, that he says in regards to these categories, he said these people came with this type of rhetoric to cause confusion, that the ahadith of the Message of Allah breaks down to those two categories. He says, وَالْأَحَادْ لَا يُعْتَمَدَ عَلَيْهِ لِقَطْعِهِمْ لَا ذَاتًا وَلَا مَعْنًا. He says in regards to ahad, and we said that the meaning of the word ahad, that they say that there was only a transmission from one sahabi. So they say that it's subjected to doubt due to the fact that it was only transmitted from one companion. So based upon that, we have some doubt concerning it. He says we don't trust it, not in itself, nor in the meaning of the narration of the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So all these theological, so-called rationality that they utilize, the ultimate goal of it was to cast doubt on the Muslims concerning it, to bring all this type of confusion. So they say in regards to ahad, it's only been transmitted by one sahabi. That means it's subjected to doubt, and for that reason we don't trust it. Then you'll find that they go to the second category, mutawatir. They'll say, of course we will have a little bit more trust with that. Why? Because it was transmitted from an abundant number of the companions. Because that's what the meaning of tawatur means. Tawatur means that it's reached a state where a lot of the companions transmitted the narration. So in that case, we feel a little bit more comfortable, so-called. But however, this is what they say concerning tawatur. They say we don't accept the narration if it's ahad. We only accept it if it's reached the level of tawatur. But even then, you'll find that they say about tawatur something that is also very strange. For example, they say tawatur is qat'i al-thubut. It's established as far as its authenticity, as far as its transmission. But at the end of the day, it's still dhanniyatul dalala. It's still speculation of what it indicates. It's speculative. It's doubtful. So verily, based upon that assumption or based upon that understanding, the narrations of the Message of Allah became what? Rejected. So you'll find they come with all these type of calamities and all this type of rhetoric. The ultimate goal, like we said behind it, was to cast doubt on the Muslims concerning their belief. That's the reason why they came with it, and they incorporated it in the religion, and it was made from the enemies of Islam, and then the Muslims fell for the trap, introducing it to the religion. As a result of it, a lot of them deviated and strayed from the correct path, and they became from the friends of Shaitan. They became from the friends of Iblis, based upon them being far away from the Book of Allah. And the more affairs is concerning doubt, especially in the fundamentals and in one's creed and belief, then you become closer and closer to Shaitan, because that's what Shaitan wants the human being to have doubt concerning his Lord. concerning his existence or concerning whether or not Allah deserves to be worshipped alone, or doubt concerning his names and attributes. All of these affairs are inspiration from the shayateen that they reveal to those who are with them from the magicians or from those who have been affected by Greek philosophy and logic. Shaitan inspires all of them in order to now for the Muslims to be misguided in these affairs. For verily the shaitan loves that the human being has doubt concerning the existence of his Lord, or that he worships other than Allah, even though Iblis himself is one of the most knowledgeable about Allah Ta'ala. How? Because Allah Ta'ala says in this book concerning Iblis, that Iblis had mentioned and said, Rabbi anzirni ila yawmi yub'athun. He says, oh my Lord, give me respite. So Shaitan himself believes in Allah's existence. And he believes in the rububiyyah of Allah. Because he said, Rabbi. Meaning, I know that you can what? Destroy me instantly. That's why I'm asking you permission to misguide them. Because I know you're my Lord. And I know if you wanted to, you can instantly destroy me. That's why I'm asking your permission. Rabbi anzirni ila yawmi yub'athun. Shaitan believes in Allah's existence. He believes in the rububiyyah of Allah. He also believes in the uluhiyyah of Allah. He also believes firmly that Allah deserves to be worshipped. That's why Allah Ta'ala says in Surah Ibrahim, Allah Ta'ala says in this book, that on the day of resurrection, for those who shaitan are misguided, and all of them are about to be thrown in the hellfire. Well, Allah Ta'ala says that shaitan will say on the day of resurrection, وَقَالَ الشَّيْطَانُ لَمَّا قُضِيَ الْأَمْرِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَعَدَكُمْ وَعْدَ الْحَقِّ وَوَعَدْتُكُمْ فَأَخْلَفْتُكُمْ وَمَا كَانَ لِي عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْ سُلْطَانٍ إِلَّا دَعَوْتُكُمْ فَاسْتَجَبْتُمْ لِي فَلَا تُلُومُونِي لُومُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ مَا أَنَا بِمُصْرِخِكُمْ وَمَا أَنْتُمْ بِمُصْرِخِي إِنِّي كَفَرْتُ بِمَا أَشْرَكْتُمُونِي مِنْ قَبْلُ إِنَّ الظَّالِمِينَ لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. This is an ayah that indicates that shaitan believes that Allah deserves to be worshipped. And he knows about the uluhiyyah of Allah. We said that shaitan will say when the affair is concluded, verily Allah promised you the promise of truth. I promise you and I betray my promise. I take it back. I had no power over you. That's also rububiyyah. He's saying that Allah has the power, which is the rububiyyah of Allah. I had no power over you except I called you, you answered me. Do not blame me, blame yourself. I cannot save you, you cannot save me. What's the other delay of the uluhiyyah? Right here. Verily, I disbelieve of what you set up with partners with me along with Allah. Clear indication he believes the uluhiyyah of Allah. Believes in tawheed al-ibadah. Shaitan has knowledge of Allah's existence, Allah's rububiyyah, and Allah's uluhiyyah. Shaitan also believes in the qadr of Allah and divine decree. Where it says in another ayah, which is Surah Al-A'raf, he says, فَبِمَا أَغْوَيْتَنِي, because you misguided me. Meaning this is your fault, you've written it for me. So he believes in the qadr. So all of these affairs to let you know that shaitan has perfect knowledge of Allah Ta'ala. And he loves that the slaves misguide and disbelieve, and other than that, of what we just mentioned. So you find from the inspiration of shaitan is these categories. From the inspiration of the devil is that those who embrace this so-called terminology of ahad or tawatur. That narration is what? That we only accept if it's reached the level of tawatur. Tawatur meaning that an abundant number of the companions have related and transmitted that narration. When they say so-called, that removes the doubt from us. Because there's a lot of number of the companions that have transmitted the narration. However, which is still confusing, they say about tawatur, it's dhaniyatul dalala, speculative of what it indicates. So basically, just to sum it up, they rejected what? They rejected the ahadith of the Message of Allah as it being a source, as it being a foundation and a source that we refer back to. So you'll find, so what else is left? What's left now that they rejected the Sunnah, the Message of Allah? Like we said, keep in mind, all this is inspiration from Iblis. All of this is inspiration from the Shaitan, of what the Muslims adopted and tried to incorporate in their religion. As a result of it, they went astray. Allah. So after they canceled out the authentic Sunnah, then they went to the Quran. ماذا قالوا في القرآن? What did they say concerning the Quran? Now listen to this. They say, باب العقيدة باب عظيم وخطير. Which is, listen to this. The affair of creed, of conviction, meaning belief. He says it's a babun azim, it's a tremendous affair, it's a tremendous affair, and it's very dangerous. That's the truth. Absolutely. Now listen to what they say. انتبهوا لهذه المقدمة. كلمة حق أريد بها الباطل. It's a statement of truth, but what's intended behind it is what? Falsehood that they're going to use. How to utilize it. Now listen. He said, the affair of aqidah, affair of belief and conviction is a tremendous affair, and it's very dangerous. We agree, no doubt. فإذا كان الأمر كذلك فلا ينبغي أن يستدل في هذا الباب إلا بالأدلة القطعية. He said, for that reason, there should not be used as evidence in this matter except that was absolute certain evidences. That's absolutely true, no doubt. We accept that. Okay, now what's your definition of absolute sure evidences? Absolute sure evidences with them is what agrees with the what? The mind, with the intellect. As they say, al-adillatul aqliyah, the so-called mind, or the evidences that agrees with the intellect, intellectual evidences. He says, as for the so-called worded evidences, what they speak about, they say wording evidence, or worded evidences. What are they talking about?
Text.
From the text. From what? From the Sunnah. Or what's recited as far as the Book of Allah. He said, as for al-adillatul lafziyah, that so-called uttered text that is uttered with the words. He's talking about the Kitab and Sunnah. For very they say that's dhanniya, that's speculative, it's conjecture, it's subjected to what? Doubt. He said, for verily it's not relied upon in this affair. However, it's mentioned only as support. So Kitab and Sunnah is only mentioned to what? As to be utilized for how, everyone? How?
Support.
As to support it. What's the correct belief? It's the other way around. It's utilized for what? As the source and the foundation. Not in order to what? Not in order to be utilized as something just to aid or add on maybe. It's the opposite. So really what he's mentioning here, in this regard, you'll find that they only mention the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Prophet. You'll find that they utilize it just to what? Give that support, not to utilize as a source and a foundation. So what did they do, just to sum it up? Canceled out the Book of Allah, all the Kitab, the Sunnah left out in regards to these affairs. What's left? Their minds. That's it. Until you'll find that their minds all what? Contradicted each other, trying to fight one argument with another argument, with another argument, with another argument, until they only left out with just a bunch of doubt themselves. Relying upon the mind, misutilizing the mind in its what? Proper place. Because the aql was made in order for it to be used. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded us to use our minds to reflect on His signs. So that does come in the Book of Allah. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught us how to use our minds properly. However, the theologians of Greek philosophy and the likes took the human mind and utilized that in its what? In proper place. For it to be the judge over the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's revelation. And that it give precedence over what Allah sent down, which is like we said, which is misutilization of the human intellect in its improper place. So that's what they said. So nothing now, like we mentioned, was left except that. For now, the human minds, as we know, as a result of it, when they so-called wanted to try to rationalize, they started negating everything. That's why you find the intellect of all the deviant sects, such as the Jahmiyyah, when they negated all the names and the attributes of Allah until they removed His existence, except only in the mind. They negated sifat, all of it. And like we talked about, keep in mind, all of this is inspiration from the devil. Negation of Allah's names and attributes. And the negation that Allah is above, or above the throne. All of it is inspiration that Shaitan loves, and he laughs at the human beings of them believing in this nonsense. He said, for verily them, calling to the affirmation, for example, what the Mu'tazila are upon, saying that the names of Allah are just solid so-called names, what they call al-asma al-mujawwada al-jamida, just solid names, they don't indicate any meanings. He said, for verily, all of this was affairs that they came and they played around with the text. They played around with Kitab and Sunnah until you'll find this is the result of it, was all these reprehensible matters and all these atrocities came in the end. Until the Muslims became extremely weak. Weak in their belief. What happened as a result of them being weak in their belief? Their enemies came in and destroyed them and divided them up. Because the non-Muslim, because Shaitan, brothers and sisters, listen carefully. Shaitan knows that the strength of the Muslims is in their belief. If you weaken that, they're destroyed. They're destroyed in this world and they're destroyed in the hereafter. Shaitan revealed that to his awliya, those who his friends are in this world. That's why Shaitan came with all these different ambiguities. There is no day of resurrection. For example, we negate the names and attributes of Allah. Or, for example, Allah is not above. It doesn't make sense. Rather, He's everywhere and in everything. No, Allah does not have certain attributes to the end of it. Shaitan knows if he weakens the Muslims in these affairs, they will be rendered extremely what? Weak, and as a result of it, their enemies will come in and destroy them. So Shaykh al-Islam is coming to revive the correct belief concerning these matters. So that's why you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam and him reviving the honor and the strength of the Ummah by laying these principles down. He said, for these affairs are all inspiration from the Shaitan. Of these affairs that was newly introduced to the religion of the categories of Ahad and Mutawatir. You'll find that the ulama, that they came in order to rebuttal. Because I'm sure that some people or some of the students of knowledge that will purchase books, and you'll find that the ulama do discuss these matters in regards to the definition of ahad and tawatur. However, they discuss it due to the fact that the people of innovations and the people who are the enemies and the aiders of Shaitan came to instill this in the minds of the Muslims. So as a result of it, they were forced to now what? Deal with it. So you'll find that they start speaking about it. So they would now have to remove the incorrect belief and now what? Teach the people and cultivate them upon what's correct from those categories. So some people read this book and they say, well, I see the ulama mentioned tawatur, ahad. I thought you said that was from the innovators or from the people of the theologians of logic and the likes. We say yes, that originally was from them. However, the ulama had came in order to clarify what was the truth from it. So now they were forced in a position where they had to deal with it. Because the enemies of those who are aiding Shaitan came and newly introduced this into the religion, incorporated it. Until a lot of Muslims adopted its what? Its ideologies and started believing it. So that's the reason why you'll find that they started to speak about what's tawatur and ahad, such as, when in regards to number one, we say, Ahlul Sunnah do not look in the affairs of as far as the authentic narrations of the message of Allah, or whether or not it was transmitted from one Sahabi or an abundant number of Sahabi or Sahaba. That's not the issue. What's the correct position is that the narration is authentic. If it's authentic, for that's what we what? That's what we believe, and that's what we what? Work by. So it's not the affair whether or not it was transmitted from Khabr al-Wahid or Khabr al-Ahad, or whether or not it was transmitted by a Majmu'a Ashab al-Nabi, or a number, an abundant number of the companions. That's not our affair. That's not our position in regards to how we look and accept what is authentic from the message of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The only thing that the people of the Sunnah look in is whether or not all the prerequisites of authenticity, or from the aspect of being hasan, being sound, that the conditions have been fulfilled in regards to the what? As far as the chain. Being free from chain or anything of hidden weaknesses. And in regards to the text, same thing. Once we have affirmed as authentically reported upon the message of Allah, we've accepted whether or not it came from one transmitter or an abundance of transmitters. That's our position. And we also believe that those narrations are qat'iyyatu thubut and also qat'iyyatu dalal. We also believe that it's been affirmed and firmly established in its affirmation, and its firmness is also well established in regards to what it indicates. It's not speculative evidence. It's firm evidence that we firmly grasp and believe without a doubt, because all the prerequisites and conditions of authenticity has been fulfilled of what is known with the people of hadith. That is what we look at, not the mere fact that it's been broken down into tawatur al-ahad. Like we talked about, when you see those type of categories mentioned in the books, it's from the affairs that the ulama had to deal with, because the people falsehood came with these type of doubts, and as a result of it, they caused confusion. So the ulama had to come behind them and clarify it. So that's the reason why you'll find that they mentioned it in their books. Shaykh al-Islam goes on to say, وإعراضهم عما بعث الله به محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم من البينات والهدى وتركهم البحث عن طريق السابقين والتابعين. Where's you guys' books? You stop bringing them. I know you guys. Don't forget your books. Brothers and sisters, wallahi, I just want to give a warning to everyone. If knowledge is lost, the city falls apart. If there's no classes disseminated from the Salafis with the proper teachers and with the proper knowledge, the city falls apart. The Muslims fall apart. What holds the city down is the knowledge. People are starting to get away from that. And that pillar that's holding and made this city strong is getting extremely weak now. And I don't know if the people here in the city are getting bored with Allah's ni'mah or what. Person would say, where you get that from? That's in the book of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about the people of Saba. The people of Saba said, as it says in the ayat, as it says in the tafsir, they became bored with the ni'mah of Allah. Until they asked Allah, as we say, for the drama. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said they made a dua. Listen to this dua. Allahumma ba'id bayna asfarina fa dhalamu anfusahum وجعلناهم أحاديث ومزقناهم كل ممزق إن في ذلك لآيات لكل صبار شكور ولقد صدق عليهم إبليس ظنه فاتبعوه إلا فريقا من المؤمنين وما كان عليه سلطان إلا. Matter of fact, let me stop there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in His book, He says, this is the dua of the people of Sabah. Oh Allah, make our travels difficult. And they oppressed themselves. And we made them a ahadith, a narrative for the people to take an exhortation and lesson from. And we ripped them apart, a total rip. Surah Saba. When Allah Ta'ala mentioned, He said that if you look at the tafsir of it, they said they became bored with Allah's ni'mah. Until they made a stupid, dumb dua. Oh Allah, give us difficulty, we want it. Basically just to say, we love drama, so to give it to us. We want the drama. We don't like a copacetic, lovely, easy life. No. We love drama. Give it to us. Allah gave it to him. You wanted it, you got it. So warning to everyone, brothers, stay steadfast upon the ilm. Bring your books, don't become lax. Stop being bored with the ni'mah of Allah Ta'ala. A person will say, like I told you, you just see clearly, like in the book of Allah, it's there. Continue this is going for people online, not just in front of you, but online listening. Look in your book and be diligent in ilm. If knowledge stops, shaitan won. If knowledge stops being disseminated in the city from the proper knowledge and the proper people that's qualified, shaitan has won. What holds the city down is the ilm, not the buildings. The buildings are just to facilitate the knowledge, but it's not the pillar. Keep that and remember that, everyone. And like I said, and I warned everyone before, the pillar that's holding the city down is becoming very extremely weak. So brothers and sisters, be very, very cautious. Alright? Be diligent in the knowledge. Bring your books, bring your pens, listen attentively. These affairs that you teach in Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah is bringing what will save you from the hellfire. This is what he's teaching in this book. So don't be lax. A lot of people become lax and say, oh, man, that's secondary to me. Dunya is first. It's supposed to be the opposite. For verily you'll find, as it says in the narration, it says, verily Allah, this is what Shaykh al-Islam goes on to say, وَإِعْرَاضِهِمْ عَمَّا بَعْثَ اللَّهُ بِهِ مُحَمَّدًا صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ من البينات والهدى وتركهم البحث عن طريق السابقين والتابعين. He said that they turned away from the book of Allah, what Allah sent Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam with, of clear clarification and proper guidance. What's that mean? Meaning ilm, knowledge. He says looking for the path of those who preceded us, meaning the first and foremost from who? The companions. He's talking about the companions, those who was known for having sound understanding of the religion and making sure they cling to their understanding. Tarakuhum limada. He said, why did they abandon them and leave off their understanding? Why? Those who have been polluted and corrupted by these type of ideologies, from the theologians and from those especially involved in communism, liberalism, all of them. They did not understand the meanings of the text in regards to Allah's attributes. Rather, they just mentioned and said, they just mere illiterate people. They just recited the book of Allah, but they didn't really have the sound understanding like we have it. He said, for them, وَالْتِمَاسِهِمْ عِلْمَ مَعْرِفَةِ اللَّهِ مِمَّنْ لَمْ يَعْرِفِ اللَّهِ بِإِقْرَارِهِ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ. He said, for them seeking out, so-called, the knowledge of Allah, from those who do not know Allah. He said from them admitting upon themselves of what they even said in those poetries that we already read. Of them saying that I'm a state of misguidance. And I was astray and I was in a state of loneliness. To the end of the poetry that we read from those so-called great theologians of logic, to the point they regretted in the end of their lives that they did not stick to what was revealed. And you'll find that they were so-called the revered scholars of philosophy, mentioning how they severely regretted that they busied themselves with all of these matters and not seeking proper guidance in the book of Allah and the Sunnah, the message of Allah, and dying upon the, as they say, حتى أتمنى أني أموت على عقيدة أمي. He said, I wished I would have died upon the aqidah of my mother. What did he mean by that? Meaning that the day I was born, meaning that I was left upon the fitrah. That I wish my natural disposition and inclination of my belief wasn't corrupted. That I just came out and I believed the belief of how a baby comes out in a perfect form when they leave out the womb of the mother when he gives birth to him or her. So that's what he's speaking. This is what we already covered. I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. So then he said, you'll find that all those people that we mentioned, how many people did we say from those so-called theological scholars that was affected? From Fakhr Razi, from Shaykh al-Stani, Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, Juwayni. All of them acknowledged and said that they were all wasting time and to the point where they came out just being merely ignorant. He said they didn't come out of all that different research, so-called, busying themselves on all those arguments, one argument after another, until they left out of it and just being in a state of what? Ignorance. So they came and embarked upon an affair being ignorant, and they left out of it being what? Ignorant. After years and years and years of busying themselves. What is more of a humiliation? That you busy your life with a long duration period of something you have no benefit of. That is an ultimate disgrace from Allah to protect us. That you busy yourself with years and years and years of misguidance. And you came in ignorant, and then you embarked upon an affair reading a bunch of books, and then you left out of it ignorant and confused. And make a dua to Allah to save you because of the severe confusion and state that you're in of loss. So for these affairs of your father, he said, يقول الشيخ الإسلام, he said, وَبِدَلَالَةٍ كَثِيرًا يَعْرِفُهَا مَنْ دَرَسَهَا. He said, for verily, a lot of the evidences and proofs, he said, for the person who will attain if they study it. And he said, I don't intend by فُلَانَ وَفُلَانَ الَّذِينَ تَقَدَّمَ ذِكْرُهُم مِّن بَابَ الْأَمْثِلَ فَقَدْ. He said, وَإِنَّمَا أَصِفُ نَوْعَ هَؤُلَاء وَنَوْعَ هَؤُلَاء. He said, for verily now we'll embark upon what we describe these people and these people, which is going to come now, inshallah. So we'll read this and then we'll stop in a minute, inshallah. So now the actual book itself will start. So you find that Shaykh al-Islam laid down a very strong introduction. He said, so now, he said, if you believe this source that we rely upon, and that we do not deviate from a blink of an eye, rather we refer all of our affairs back to not only in creed, which is the foundation, even all of the affairs of our religion is based upon that source. Whether it be in affairs of aqidah, or in the bab of fiqh, or in the bab of any other matter that's connected with the religion. It all refers back to those sources that we mentioned. So then he now starts to start the book itself, which I don't think is what Shaykh Anwar, he didn't put in the book, Hafidullah, but that's where it stops at. You'll find that he starts, and I'm just going to read it myself. So now after we finish the actual introduction, now we start in the book itself. Where Shaykh al-Islam and Taymiyyah, that he goes on to say, وَإِذَا كَانَ كَذَلِكَ فهذا كتاب الله من أوله إلى آخره وسنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من أولها إلى آخرها ثم عامة كلام الصحابة والتابعين ثم كلام سائر الأمة مملوء بما هو إما نص وإما ظاهر فيه أن الله هو العلي فوق كل شيء وعلي على كل شيء وأنه فوق العرش وأنه فوق السماء. He said, for the affairs, if you believe in the book of Allah and the Sunnah, the message of Allah, upon an understanding of Sahaba, not being corrupted by logic or philosophy, and you remove that from your belief and from your mind, and all those other affairs of corruption, of polytheism, because we know that the Greek philosophers, not only they came with the destruction and atrocity of philosophy that Shaitan revealed to them, they also came with the mindset of a deep satanic understanding of polytheism, of how many gods they used to believe in. So Shaitan used to play with the Greek philosophers and those who were upon from their people who deviated in affairs of worship, of how many gods they used to believe. So you know they were in a deep magnitude of filth in regards to worship, of how many gods and deities were for each thing, and for each what? And for each person, or for each element of earth, or whatever it is. For your father, he mentions, it says, if your mind has been freed from all of that nonsense, and you cling to what we're mentioning, he says, from the first of the Sunnah, the message of Allah, to the last, and from what you'll find of the general speech of the companions and the tabi'een, and the rest of the ummah, he said you'll find that it's filled either with text, or what is clearly apparent. What's the first thing he starts with? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Most High. Al-Ali. The Most High is above everything. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above everything. And He is high above everything. And that He is above the throne. And that He is above the heavens. Shaykh al-Islam inaugurated the whole book by starting with this characteristic, which is ulu, the loftiness, highness, aboveness. All of it is what? Synonymous. All of it means the same thing. That Allah Ta'ala, He Himself is above the heavens. Then Shaykh al-Islam starts to mention the ayat. من كان يريد العزة فلله العزة جميعا إليه يصعد الكلم الطيب والعمل الصالح يرفعه. He said, for verily, verily it belongs to Allah al-Izzah. Whoever seeks honor, for verily belongs to an honor, all of it. And to him ascends the good word. In the statement of Allah Ta'ala, verily, O Jesus, the son of Mary, I'm going to take you at death, meaning the death of sleep, not the death of a body. Because we believe that Jesus, the son of Mary, is still alive. He never died. He's above in the heaven, he's above. And he's not everywhere. But based upon the Jahmiyyah, I think Jesus would be everywhere too, right? But I guess he's in every place too. But at any rate, he says, verily, I'm going to take you at death of sleep. So Jesus never died on the cross. And that ayah is a refutation against the Christians and the Jahmiyyah. So I will take you at sleep and raise you to me. It says in the ayah, raise you high to me. So based upon that, Jesus, Ahl Sunnah, we believe that Jesus is above the heavens. That he never died on the cross. Because he never was caught by those who wanted to plot against him. They never caught him. Allah saved them and foiled their plot by him being raised before they caught him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala threw the resemblance of Jesus upon another individual. So Jesus never died on the cross. It never happened in regards to him. But the resemblance was what? Put on Isa, was on another individual, and they killed him in his place. So Jesus himself is above the heavens. How? Allahu A'lam. Allah didn't inform us. However, in the ayah, Allah says that Allah cast the sleep or the death of sleep. Because we know that death breaks down to two types. You have wafat and no. Because we know that sleep is a type of death. And then you have the sleep which is called al-mawtatu sughra, the minor death which is sleep. And then you have the major death which is death itself when your soul leaves the body. So it leaves the body and never comes back. However, when you sleep, your soul leaves the body and it comes back. That's why when certain people, when they die and they sleep, Allah holds their soul back. That's how they die and they sleep. A person would say, what's your evidence for that? That's also in the book of Allah. Allah Ta'ala says in this book, Allah yatawaffa al-anfus hina mawtiha wallati lam tamut fi manamiha wa yumsiku allati qada alayha al-maut wa yursilu al-ukhra ila ajl musamma. So Allah Ta'ala says in this book, Allah takes the souls at the time of wafa, of death. Allah yatawaffa al-anfus hina mawtiha, when it's time for it to die. And the time is not for it to die. Where's that? In your sleep. Allah yatawaffa al-anfus hina mawtiha wallati lam tamut fi manamiha, which did not die in sleep. Yumsiku allati qada alayha al-maut. He holds on to the souls of what death has been now preordained for it by holding the soul from coming back in the body. And then he sends the other souls back to it. وَيُرْسِلُ الْأُخْرَى to an appointed time. That's in the book of Allah. So notice that every Salafi comes with evidence to support what we're saying. And if you notice what I'm saying, it's clear as the sun in the sky. For verily, Allah Ta'ala says in his book, Inni mutawaffika. I'm going to cast you and give you a certain type of death, Jesus, son of Mary. What type of death is it? Of sleep. And I'm going to raise you to me. Raise you to me, which means that what? Up. What does raising mean? High, above. So based upon understanding of the ahbash, that means Jesus is everywhere. Jesus is in everywhere and everything. Where's Allah? He's everywhere. Where's Jesus at? Maybe he's everywhere too. طيب. Then Allah Ta'ala says in this book, أَأَمِنْتُم مَنْ فِي السَّمَاءِ أَن يَخْسِفَ بِكُمُ الْأَرْضَ فَإِذَا هِيَ تَمُورُ. Do you not believe, do you feel secure that the one who's above, that he will not cause the earth to swallow you up? And he also goes on to say, Shaykh al-Islam, do you feel secure for the one who will not send a violent storm upon you, meaning from above? He's bringing all the ayahs to show that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above. Verily, Allah also says in another ayah, بَلْ رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ. He said that the enemies that tried to kill Isa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised him to him. This says in the ayah, بَلْ رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ. He raised him to him. Raised him to him. Also the ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the angels ascend and Jibreel ascend to him. So if Allah is everywhere, why did the angels have to ascend? Simple question. If Allah is everywhere, why did the angels ascend? Clear belief to let you know that why don't you believe what the angels believe? The angels don't believe that Allah is everywhere. The angels above, so that instinctively shows that the angels believe Allah is above the heavens. So why don't you believe the belief of the angels? Why do you want to believe the belief of the tricks of the devil, who's telling you that Allah is everywhere? That's why it says clearly in the ayat that even the angels believe that Allah is above. Even Jibreel know Allah is above. So why don't you believe in the belief of the malaika? They even believe that Allah is above. And the prophets unanimously believed Allah was above, without any distinction between one prophet and messenger. Every single prophet and messenger believed Allah was above. Every single last one of them. The belief of the angels, the belief of the prophets and the messengers, and him at the end of all of those beliefs is Allah himself, establishing that he's above the arsh. So then he goes to the saying, and the ayat, and we'll quickly finish it. They fear their Lord from above them. And then you know, then the ayat to which all of us know, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most merciful, ascended above the arsh. And we'll continue the rest tomorrow, inshallah. We'll stop here. Any questions about the lesson? Well, as far as this book, now the actual book itself, so I'm about to start making copies for this. I don't know if there's anything in English translated with the actual text for this. This I have to do research on. But other than that, brothers, if you can, I'll just have to make copies of the pages so you can follow along in the lesson, inshallah. Anything? Any questions? Huh? There's a lot of them. Surah Al-Fatiha, ayah number 10. That's the Surah Al-A'raf. Surah Al-A'raf is, no, the ayah where Allah says, قَالَ رَبِّي أَنظِرْنِي إِلَى يَوْمِ يُبْعَثُونَ. Oh my Lord, give me respite to the day that they're resurrected. No, that's Surah Al-A'raf. Surah Ibrahim is when he said, قال الشيطان لما قضي الأمر إن الله وعدكم وعد الحق ووعدتكم فأخلفتكم وما كان لي عليكم من سلطان إلا دعوتكم فاستجبتم لي. The Surah Ibrahim is when he says, when the affair be concluded, Shaitan said, I promise you to promise the truth. And I promise you and I betrayed my promise. I had no power over you except you answered me. That's the Surah Ibrahim. I don't know the number. Allahu A'lam. I don't know the number. Anything else? Huh? No su'al? No questions? Well, we'll stop here, inshallah. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.